Welcome back to the Becoming Her podcast. And you guys, it's been a hot minute since we have all three been together. So I am so freaking hyped. And again, I know I start this like podcast saying the same thing every single time, but I just love doing these. I think they're so much fun. But today we are going to chat about the comparison trap because I think this is some not think, I'm almost positive this is something that I'm sure every single listener listening to this right now has experienced in their lifetime at some point. And I will start off by saying and get a little bit vulnerable here. I was the queen at prior Nicole version 1.0 of herself of picking others apart, particularly females, especially powerful ones. And it was one of those, I know you guys, I'm sure you guys have heard that saying, the grass isn't always greener on the other side, but, watering your own grass is going to be much more fruitful than, gawking over somebody else's grass kind of concept. And that for me obviously was a game changer. And I really am excited to chat with you about this because I know that this is something that you have a lot of experience with. I know that this is something that you probably work through with a lot of your patients. But can you kind of, because we were talking a little bit off camera, what is comparison? Because you gave us some perspective before we got on camera, and I think that this is pretty freaking powerful.
Well, comparison, the problem with comparison is that comparison is usually the judgment that we hold inside of ourselves externalized onto the rest of the world. So, one of the challenges with comparison is that comparison always produces shame for us because even though we might find ourselves in a place where we're comparing ourselves to someone else and we win the comparison, by default, naturally, what's going to happen is that means that we're going to find somebody else that's winning the comparison and we suck because of it. And all the things that we are afraid about ourselves and fear about ourselves to be true and are ashamed of come back in. And so a lot of what we do, in comparison and envy are kind of intertwined. Envy is a little bit different. It's kind of a fun emotion, I think, because envy actually involves some degree of entitlement, whereas jealousy is about fear. They're two separate emotions. But what happens is that when we're looking at someone and we like how they look and we're wanting, we're kind of coveting what they have, right? So we're in a place of envy. We feel like we should be able to achieve it if only we worked harder, we managed our diet. And this is where we get really kind of neurotic about. And I was one of those people too. I'd go to the gym and I'd see somebody do something. I'd be like, okay, so they've got the butt I want. I'm going to do the workout. I just like kind of like low key stalked them and I would be like, okay, so I'm going to do that. And the problem with this is that what happens is that it makes it really hard for us to enjoy the bodies that we're actually in and really hard for us to actually have gratitude about what our bodies are doing because we're chasing a look that we may or may not be able to achieve based upon bone structure, based upon genetics, based upon where we store fat. I mean, I remember in my early 20s and my late teens thinking of all these women that had, kind of the stick figure, I got a pear shaped man, but the stick figure and the no butt and the really skinny legs and no thighs. And I thought, that's what I want. And I thought I was constantly failing because no matter how hard I worked, I could never achieve it. And what happened then is this is where the mean girl inside of us comes out, right? And where the mean girl inside of me came in is then I would go out and I would try to find everyone that was bigger than me. And I'd be like, well, at least I'm not that size. At least I don't struggle with that. Well, at least I don't have a big belly. At least I don't know this. But when we do that, what happens is we're actually giving ourselves our own really hefty dose of shame because by default, the second I see somebody that has the legs or butt or whatever that I want, I'm going to feel like I'm gross and disgusting. And so, it's really, really hard when we're in that place and we're in a constant comparison trap because here's a fun thing about our brains and here's a fun thing about how we're wired and our nervous systems are wired, whatever it is that we repeat with a lot of practice, we integrate into our brains. We are actually actively training our brains. So if we're really critical of other people all the time, or we're comparing ourselves to other people, or comparing other people to us or our family members, what happens is that the more often we do it, the more often we're going to want to do it because now it's just kind of natural. It's like background noise, right? So I'm constantly evaluating the people around me and how they look and how I look. And do you ever realize, or did you ever notice, like when you were winning or losing the comparison, that what you were doing is you're walking to the room, it's like your stomach like sucked in. You were like standing up really tall, and you were constantly trying to like, and I remember I'd sit down next to somebody and I'd look and see how big my thighs would spread, and I'd sit farther out on the seat so they would be a little bit smaller. Be like, yeah, that's right, I got smaller legs than you do.
It's hitting hard. It's hitting home so hard right now. I was just like the epitome of that girl. Oh my gosh.
Yes, yes. And, and so this is where I think really reframing and really working on some positive these are some positive or not sleep, but positive mental health habits. We talk about sleep hygiene, we talk about, um, physical hygiene, we talk about dental hygiene. Well, mental health hygiene involves stopping some of these really destructive habits.
Mhm.
And we cannot get to a place where we're happy and joyful people if what we're constantly doing is judging the world around us and judging ourselves for what we do or don't have.
Yeah, that is powerful. Because I want to hear your stance on this, because I think it can be almost shameful to admit that we struggle with this, or slightly embarrassing. And so I mean, I'm sure that you've had some bouts of this, but I'd love to hear your perspective.
Yeah, gosh, where do I start? I think I need a one-on-one with Dr. Ann. So I was, oh, how do I say it really quickly without like overpowering? When I learned that I was fat was when I was fat was when I was in ninth grade summer. I love to eat. I was an emotional eater. There's a lot of trauma for causing that side of me to be an emotional eater, to look for comfort in food, etc. And I didn't realize I was fat until one summer my mom had to we were all supposed to go to Turkey, where I'm originally from. But something happened with my passport. I couldn't go, so I stayed back with my dad. And I ended up dieting that summer. And I had never dieted before. So it was ninth grade summer. I dieted. And the diet was like 1,000 calorie diet. I learned about calories, what they were, and how to count them. So my foods were canned tuna, lettuce, a piece of cracker and Diet Coke, right? That's what I ate every day. And so I lost so much weight. And I went, my mom came back from Turkey. It was like in a couple months. I think I lost like 30 pounds. I don't know how that's
Wow.
possible, but I did. I lost so much weight. Like I just like, and I felt good. I felt like skinny felt so good. Like I felt really good. Okay, so my mom comes back from Turkey and of course buying all the junk food again, right? And I thought I could just like eat the junk food and not ever gain the weight back. And I gained it back and some. But before I gained it all back, what was really sad was I went to school and all the guys that never really like talked to me started talking to me. And then I realized, oh my gosh, I'm beautiful. I just didn't see it before. And I'm like, damn, you guys now giving me attention because I fucking lost weight and you can see the beauty in me. I was beautiful all along. Now I know that, but I didn't realize my beauty until I shed the weight and I got all this attention and people were like, oh my gosh, Buket. Like I was always the ugly duckling, in middle school looking back. And so that's when my relationship with food started. And I was like, oh, I have to restrict. And skinny is beautiful. And that's when you get attention. And that's when people like you. And so it was a constant yo-yo diet battle from then. And I constantly compared. What I didn't know, and I know now, and I didn't know until really coaching with Nicole, was that body that we like is a muscled body. And so I didn't realize that until like I would look at these bikini pictures on the cover of magazines. I'm like, man, if like I just have to eat less, I have to eat less. Like eventually I'll look like that. And then I realized, no, they look like that because they lift weights and they eat a lot of protein. And so, but that's when my relationship and comparison game started as far as my physique and how I look, is when I lost that weight and then realized my beauty because of the outside attention I got, which was really sad. And then it bled into my marriage. Like when I met my husband at 18 and we were really young, it's crazy. And maybe Dr. Ann, you could see why I did this. I'm not sure why, but it's whatever he looked at, because he was young. He was looking at women all the time. And I'm like, okay, whatever he saw, I was like, oh, I want to be like that. I need to look like her. I got to look like her so he doesn't look at her. And it was just, but then I'm like, but he likes everything. I can't be everything. And then I became obsessed with wanting to be everything, the perfect wife, cook dinner, the best everything of everything at the home, the best mom, the this, the that.
Mm.
Crazy.
Yeah, it starts so much earlier, I think, than what we ever give it credit for too. Like when you the fact that you can actually remember being so young and it's starting for you at such a young age is, I mean, that's crazy. I would love to hear your thoughts on that, Anne, though.
Yeah, so you're talking about a really interesting phenomenon that we have because what you were craving was to be noticed. And we often regard getting attention. We talk about attention like it's a bad thing. So we're like, oh, that person's attention seeking, or that person just wants attention because they did this, or, they want attention because they're posing on social media in their bikini. Attention actually isn't bad. It's a need that we have. And I want you to think about this for children. If children aren't noticed, if they're not seen, if you don't look at a toddler, you don't give them attention, you don't, when they, one of my favorite videos of this is an episode, I can't think of the name, but it's called the Still Face Experiment. And in the experiment, there's this little baby and she's cooing and eyeing and playing with her mom, and the mom is interacting with her. The baby's pointing, the mom's following with her eyes, she's cooing, the mom's smiling in response. And then what they do is they have the mom turn around and just give kind of like the gray rock face. So she's essentially emotionless. And you see the baby instantly notice it, and she starts doing all the things that she was doing. She's pointing, she's like smiling. The mom's still not looking anywhere, and she's just looking straight at her. And pretty soon the baby gets in a lot of distress and starts screaming and makes this high-pitched sound, and it like arches her back, and she notices that her mom isn't there's no reciprocity here. She's not getting her needs met to just be noticed.
Mm-hmm.
And what's so powerful about that as human beings is that we're actually created as a group species. We're actually literally genetically created to be a group species with mirror neurons. We're actually meant when we're in distress to find our people, to share our pain, to do things that are hard with other people. That's why coaching is so valuable, right? Because if I'm going to do something hard, at least somebody's on my side cheering me on. Well, what you were actually referring to, and a lot of times this comes and we don't even realize it, is that we don't get noticed enough or for the right things when we're kids growing up. And a lot of us don't do this. And I don't know a lot about your background with this, but what happens then is that we have an unmet need. Think of it like, you're in the desert and you haven't had water for 10 years or 16 years. And finally somebody gives you water. You're like, that's what that's like. That's amazing. Right. And we so desperately need it that we're going to do anything to get it back. And so and again, that brain is wired for pattern recognition because it wants to help us survive. It wants to help us get its needs met. And so if it identifies, man, when you're thin, you get noticed. All we got to do is be thin now.
Yep.
Right. And so we chase thinness. And at the point that you were talking about, I'm not good enough, so I want to be good enough in all these arenas so that no one can ever get noticed over me, that I can actually capture this man's heart and be noticed by him and fill my soul up.
Yep.
Right. And what happens then when we're in this place of being the perfect whatever is now, and this is again, comparison and shame, we're back in the pit of shame because I can't be good enough unless I'm perfect. And so what happens then is we're constantly oriented to everybody else that's better than us. So our partner looks at someone else and we go, what, it was her hair, wasn't it? It was her, okay, I can. Oh, it was her boots. I can get those boots. Oh, it's because her waist is really thin. I can work out. It's fine. I can get those like squeezer belts and I can, and I can do, and it's because we need to be noticed. Being noticed is not a bad thing. It's usually the things that we're doing to try to get noticed that winds up being problematic. But having someone see us, having someone love us, having someone just simply know us from the core, who we are, what we feel, what we love, what we want, what we desire, what it is that we crave, what we struggle with, and still accept us. That is inherently human.
Yep. You hit the nail on the head. That's exactly, I mean, as a child, I didn't get much attention. I was the oldest. We were immigrants, and, I kind of had to fend for myself. Mom went through bouts of depression, and long story short, I had to grow up really fast and help kind of raise my brothers as well. So I naturally at 18 felt like I was ready to get married. I mean, I've been being a mother all my life, so might as well jump back into that. And so caring and taking care of, I felt like I could, just do it all and be perfect. But like you said, it doesn't matter. Like you could do all of the things that you think is perfect. You could be someone's everything. And if they're going to go do something, whether it's cheat or leave you or whatever it may be, there's no way you can prevent that. They're going to do it regardless. Doesn't matter how perfect you are or how perfect you think you are. I think I came to that realization like 5 years ago. I'm 38.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because ironically, what you're talking about, and this is, this is where shame lives. I'd rather there be something wrong with me than someone else, because at a bare minimum, at least I can fix it. Right. So if I can keep my guy from cheating because I can be all the things he ever wanted in every arena, then I feel less anxious because I'm actually trying to control his reactions now.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, when somebody cheats, when somebody leaves us, that isn't a reflection of who we are. Now, it might be a reflection of some deficits in the relationship itself, but it's not a reflection of us as human beings.
Right.
It's a reflection of what it is that they're struggling to get met.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
Mm. I
Yeah.
noticed with my, oh, go ahead, Buket, sorry.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, yeah, and I know like it's physical has a lot to do with it. It's another thing too, Dr. Ann, that one struggles with as we age as women, because our youth goes away, our skin changes, our body changes. It's something I'm struggling with right now, and I work in aesthetics as well. And I'm like keeping things up, but like I'm looking in the mirror and I'm like, man, I'm not 25 anymore. Like I'm not 25 anymore.
Not the spring chicken anymore.
No.
What's interesting about that is that the most attractive thing on any human being is how confidently they feel in their skin. And I'm not talking about arrogance, because arrogance is a whole other ballpark. Because arrogance is ironically also about shame. Fun fact. But confidence means that I feel good in my skin. And what happens when I feel good in my skin is that I have joy. And a lot of where confidence comes from is an ability to be proud of what it is that we're proud of, who we are and how we're living. Right. So, and this is where now our body, I don't have to compare myself to someone else, because someone else can be a really talented artist. Someone else can be a really good therapist. Someone else can be a really fit superstar and lift more at the gym than I can ever lift. And this is now where we get to be freed up women and freed up people, right? I can praise that girl and go, girl, look at you go. I can't, woo. That's a lot of weight. I strive for that. Right? We can lift other people up because it's not a threat to who we are to acknowledge someone else. Right? Because I'm still worthy. I'm good enough. I'm pretty cool. And I love who I am because I'm a good person. And some of that comparison game, what we're actually replacing is we're replacing an ability to identify the positive characteristics about us that make us lovable and worthwhile. And what's hard about this is that we grow up in families that they don't know how to do this. We don't know how to talk about feelings. And my family wasn't one of these feelings. I'm one of these families. I didn't naturally kind of get this. They learned that, we've grown. I love my parents, are great people, but they just didn't get enough of this themselves. And so our job as parents is actually to breathe life over our children by saying, I see your compassionate heart. You are such a thoughtful person. You are so strong. You are so brave. You are so resilient. And as we say that, as we repeat it, when they're going through hard moments, when they're really facing challenges in life, what happens is they develop that ability to intrinsically identify what makes them worthwhile instead of looking at everybody else around them.
Oh, I love, and I have to add
Powerful.
this. So my daughter, she's beautiful, absolutely
Oh my
stunning.
gosh, she's stunning.
She is. She is.
Gorgeous. And it makes me almost emotional. I have never heard her look in the mirror and pick herself apart ever. Ever. And she loves her eyes, her nose, her face, her skin color, her eyebrows. And it's so cute because sometimes she'll look at me and be like, Mommy, I look like you. You gave me your beauty. And I'm just like, oh, I love it because I was in ninth grade summer and she's in ninth grade. I picked myself apart. So I feel like she's been given so much unconditional love since the day she's been born, that Dr. Ann, what you're talking about, that natural confidence, my girl's got it. And I'm so happy for her. So happy because she knows her worth. Like she absolutely knows her worth.
That's so powerful.
And she's still humble too. Like she's just like me in that the way she shows love is through serving. She likes to cook and she likes to do things, and like that's her love language, just like mine. I'm a giver. That's my love language. I like to serve and cook, and I want to see your face when you eat the food because I'm excited to see if you like it. Like that's me. That's how I show love. And she does too, but she's got that unconditional love since day one, and it just radiates. I absolutely love it.
Mhm.
Good dose of good parenting, though. That is, I mean, that's just a testament to your parenting too. So that's
Yeah, yes, this girl and my husband does the same thing. Gosh, not a day goes by that he says you're absolutely beautiful inside and out. And he'll compliment her constantly about things that are intrinsic as well as, on the outside. And she just soaks it in.
I love that. I love that. I can't even imagine as a child having that, like just the difference and just, it would just, I mean, cause I was like you, it started very early for me. So the game changer there. I would love to pick your brain, Anne, because what I found, I know you said, okay, comparison is linked to, it can be jealousy, it can be envy. For me, it was rage. Like I had so much resentment, and I would love to hear your thoughts on this because it wasn't like, I mean, yes, I'm sure of course I was jealous and I would love to look like that person, but there was so much rage behind it for me because I was like working at this so hard, and I like, you know what I mean? I was doing all of the things. I was dieting and I was eating, little calories, and I was cutting carbs and I was fasting. And yet I felt like I was working harder than anybody I knew, but my body didn't reflect that. And for me, it just like so much built up anger and rage came out, particularly honestly to those even the closest to me, which I hate admitting because there's a lot of shame in that still for me. It's like, this is my best friend, or this is, my aunt, or this is, like my cousin. And I just had so much built up resentment towards them, and for nothing that they did other than the fact that they were smaller than I was, and they were skinny, and they could eat the things they wanted to eat without having to worry about gaining 10 pounds. Like, I would love to hear your thoughts on that because I take myself back to that person, and oh my gosh, thank the Lord for so much therapy and then just like working through all of that, just because I'm going to talk about the evolvement of where I see, like, because I honestly see, for me, I didn't say jealousy, but just envy is a good thing because I work towards being almost the dumbest person in the room. I'm fascinated now with picking somebody's brain and how did you get there, and I'm going to evolve, but I'd love to hear your thoughts just like on the resentment and anger piece of it.
So anger is often, I would say, 90% of the time, anger is a secondary emotional reaction. Think of anger like a guardian, like a knight. That what anger does is it empowers us, it moves us forward, at the same time keeping us stuck, because anger protects oftentimes more vulnerable feelings. So it's a secondary emotional reaction to what happened first. And what happened first and what you actually just described was grief. You were sad because you didn't get what they had. And somewhere along the line, you learned that what they had got you what it is that you wanted.
Mm.
And we see this all the time in TV, right? So commercials and advertisements where we see the happy family and the skinny wife and the perfect kids and the tidy house and the dogs and the white picket fence and everything. And again, because the brain is wired for patterns and recognitions and survival, right? It says, oh my gosh, I want to be happy. I want to have joy. And the only way I can be happy and have joy is if I have a man on my arm, and if I look like this, and I keep my house clean, and I do all the things, but I want that, right? But I can't get it because I'm not that size. I don't have dark hair, I don't have blonde hair, I don't blue.
I'm fascinated now with picking somebody's brain and how did you get there, and I'm going to evolve, but I'd love to hear your thoughts just like on the resentment and anger piece of it.
So anger is often, I would say, 90% of the time, anger is a secondary emotional reaction. Think of anger like a guardian, like a knight. That what anger does is it empowers us, it moves us forward, at the same time keeping us stuck, because anger protects oftentimes more vulnerable feelings. So it's a secondary emotional reaction to what happened first. And what happened first and what you actually just described was grief. You were sad because you didn't get what they had. And somewhere along the line, you learned that what they had got you what it is that you wanted.
Mm.
And we see this all the time in TV, right? So commercials and advertisements where we see the happy family and the skinny wife and the perfect kids and the tidy house and the dogs and the white picket fence and everything. And again, because the brain is wired for patterns and recognitions and survival, right? It says, oh my gosh, I want to be happy. I want to have joy. And the only way I can be happy and have joy is if I have a man on my arm and if I look like this and I keep my house clean and I do all the things, but I want that, right? But I can't get it because I'm not that size. I don't have dark hair. I don't have blonde hair. I don't have blue eyes. I don't have dark skin. I don't have fill in the blank, because all that is the prefrontal cortex making up a storyline of how it is that we can possibly achieve it, right? So then we'll go and we'll get, we'll do the sunless tanner. I'm a big advocate for sunless tanner because I can't tan. And we'll dye our hair, bleach it blonde, or we'll, wrinkle stuff. And that it's not to say that any of those things are horrible or bad, but it's when we're chasing an impossible dream that it feels like it's never enough. So that core of like, it's never good enough. I'm working so damn hard and I can never achieve it. No matter what I do, it's never good enough. That is a negative core belief. And now we're back into childhood woundings and childhood traumas. You had some message somewhere along the lines, and I'd invite you to think about the first time that you felt not good enough. That now, in order to feel good enough, I have to do these things. And not good enough is about shame. And seeing people that have what you have is about grief. Resentment is actually interesting because what resentment is, and I think it might have been a little bit more envy that you were talking about, resentment, bitterness is about boundary violations. And that wasn't about a boundary violation. So that's how we know it wasn't that.
That's powerful. And it's funny you say that because I remember being young and having all this like pent up resentment, and all I wanted was to fit in, right? Like I wanted to be the girl in school, and like kids are brutal. They still are, but I just remember like if you didn't wear a certain, I remember mud jeans. I don't know, Buket, if you remember mud jeans
Yes,
back
I
in the
remember
day.
mud jeans.
Like
Oh my gosh,
all the
the
80s
oldest
babies,
stuff.
right? And LEI jeans and all of that. And you were cool
LEI.
if you wore that brand, but they
The
didn't come
Calvin
in.
Klein shirt.
Yes, Tommy Hilfiger, right? And you were cool if you wore those things, but those things didn't come in my size. And so I couldn't find them in plus size. They didn't make them, like they didn't make clothes like larger like they do now. And so I just felt so secluded. So I remember hyper fixating on things that didn't have to size. So makeup and shoes, right? And handbag, or like just like Roxy bags. I remember having like 20 of those over the shoulder Roxy bags that were so cool instead of backpacks because it didn't have to come in a specific size. So I overcompensated. You know how much money I spent in makeup? Like it just overcompensated in all of these things because I wanted to fit in so badly. And I compared myself to these girls I could never look like, because there was no way I was fitting in any of those clothes. And so I was just grasping on any of the things that I could to somewhat feel included within this clique of girls. And it just, oh my gosh, I just remember just like, like the amount of makeup I put on my face. I just like think back to just like stupid things to try and make myself feel included. And it just like, it's insane that you say that, but you're right. It like the anger was, being like, it was a secondary emotion to a lot of other things that were going on, but it started so early for me and I would do the craziest things to try and fit in.
Yeah.
But I know, Anne, you're just in there shaking your head. You're like, yeah. I feel like I need a therapy session with Anne too.
Well, and at a certain point, Brene Brown, because I love her trainings and I'm one of the certified daring way folks. That one of the things that Brene Brown talks about is being really careful about looking for ways that we don't fit in, because if we look for it, we will always find it. There's a big trick psychologically to learning how to cope with life differently. If we always look for the negative, we always look for where it is. That's what perfectionism is about, by the way. Perfectionism is always looking for ways that I'm failing. If we're always going to look for ways that I'm failing, we will always find it. If we always look for ways that life isn't fair, we will always find it. If we always look for ways that the world is against it, we will always find it. We will always find it because we're searching for it. But if we look for the ways that life is beautiful, if we look for what it is that the gifts that we have, if we look for what it is that we did well, and we start there first, we look for what it is that we're proud of, what happens is that we're actually creating a strategy in our brain to learn how to cope and also to learn how to be joyful. And joy is one of those emotions. I love talking about joy. It is such an unappreciated emotion. Happiness is transient. Happiness is when we get a gift on Christmas that we really like, that we wanted for a really long time, or we go on vacation to somewhere that we always want, right? This is episodic thing. It feels really good. It's lovely, but it comes and goes like all the other emotions. Whereas joy is really interesting because joy is actually sustainable. And I want you to think of joy. What happens is a total experience. This is what happens, those people that are so amazing and infectious that when something bad happens to them, they have a smile on their face, and they honestly, not as a defense mechanism, but they honestly have this tremendous sense of gratitude and joy still for what it is that they are experiencing. And it's not saying, well, at least it's not that. At least it could have been worse. They're saying, I'm so grateful it wasn't this. I'm so grateful that you're still alive. I'm so grateful that I have this body. I'm so grateful that I can walk. I'm so grateful. And what I want you to think of is joy. The way I like to talk about it, it's almost like when we go through rough moments, joy becomes like this air bubble under the water. And what we want to do is we want to savor it. We want to suck it for all it's worth, because that joy is going to get us through those dark seasons. It's going to get us through moments of loneliness and grief and sadness and feeling left out, because we've actually learned how to pay attention to the positive and pay attention to what it is that we have, which ironically is one of the antidotes for comparison. We have to learn how to stop looking at everybody else's legs, plate, grades, income, size of car, size of house, what their kids look at. And instead, we got to really inherently focus on, what is it that I love about the things that I already have? What is it that I love about my kids? What is it that I love about my husband? What is it that I love about my house? What is it I love about my brand new car that has a dent on it because I backed up into the side of a mountain? I mean, all of those things, right? I did do that. Facts, right? I love it because that's personality, because that's me. I have dings all over me. It's fine, right? It's still my car and it gets me to where I need to go. And it looks cute and it's different. I can always spot it in the parking lot. That's my ding.
I love that. I love that. This has just been, I think, hopefully this is really powerful for those that are listening. And I would love to kind of work through, and I'm sure, Buket, you've had some of these aha moments as we evolve, right? And obviously a big piece of my journey, I would be lying through my teeth if I didn't say that, losing the weight and, gaining confidence in my appearance hasn't helped with a lot of this for me. But I noticed for me, comparison almost stopped when, like you said, it finally clicked for me. I'm so much more than just my body. And when I finally was able to, I'm no longer like, people would be like, who's Nicole? I'm a mom, I'm a wife, I'm a chauffeur, I'm all that. No, who is Nicole? And now I can say Nicole's passionate. She's tenacious. She's slightly stubborn. I'm all of these things that are so much more than these like superficial titles. And that was a game changer for me, because now it's like version 2.0 of Nicole. And I think it might even make my husband slightly crazy sometimes, but I can look at a female and I'm like, holy shit, look at this babe. Like, look, or like, be at the gym and be like, oh, and like, and I just really appreciate that and want to go up and compliment her for that. And like, there's not like a bitter bone in my body anymore, because I'm so whole for me, for who I am now, that like, I can look at these females. And I mean, I think my husband's like, you check out females more than you do males. Right. And I just like a total like space of like envy of like, holy, like, cause I know the work that goes into appreciating a good pair of glutes or, shoulders or whatever the case may be. But it's just so crazy to look at just kind of that morph and that transition. And now it's like I don't say I don't ever have bouts of comparison, but comparison for me used to always be wrapped up into physical. And now when I find myself comparing, but not necessarily comparing in a negative way, it's more on like a business side, which is kind of funny, like the transition of how like this person's farther along in their business than I am, or they're doing more than I am, right? And that's where the comparison is morphed, because before it was always about looks. Everything was about looks, and there's so much resentment mapped towards that. But now it's like, I like, there's just nothing there for me now. And now I do find myself still slightly, but it's different because it's now morphed into, I almost love being, and I say this like respectfully, the dumbest person in the room. I love when I can look at somebody and I don't look at, it's not like a jealousy now. It's like, okay, I almost obsess over that person. How did this person get there? Like, what did they do? What were their traits? How are they at this space? And I'm not quite there yet. Like, what can I learn and what can I pick up from that? Opposed to picking myself apart for everything that I'm not. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Yeah, you have a growth mindset. It's like I can grow, like I'm gonna grow. It's like almost like you're gonna be there. I can say the same thing about business and as a nurse practitioner. There's people that are seasoned that have practices that are, multiple practices, multiple locations, in that not just financially, right? But that they can reach so many people and they have so much influence in a positive way. But I think you also know deep down inside, I think we're both similar in this, maybe, Nicole, that you are going to get there. It's just a matter of time. So I've learned to, and I was on a podcast with Dr. Cassie, and I need to bring her onto this podcast because she asked me, what is one thing you would change or one thing that you would tell your self before? And it was that just enjoy the moment for what it is, because you're going to be there. Like, really, like right now, I know without a doubt in my mind that my practice is growing. I see where it's headed, but right now I'm still in a growth phase and I'm absolutely mesmerized and enjoying this moment for what it is, because I know the day's going to come when I'm going to have a lot of work. So it's like I'm enjoying the moment right now. I'm enjoying that climbing up because I know that that end game or that close to the finish line is coming, and I'm going to enjoy that time for what it is as well.
And you just nailed it. Cause for me, like when I relate it to business, it had nothing to do with the financial aspect of it. It has
Growth.
everything to do with the growth piece of it. And this person is offering this much impact and they're known for this. And I love when people are like, I love your no BS. And you just offer, I love when people resonate and or they attach me to something that gives value and meaning, opposed to, like my body or this or that. It's like, no, I know you for your no BS. And I know that, you know what I mean? You've got the heart. And I know that you're not just speaking from a space of like, you're just trying to pad your pocketbook. I look at it in that aspect and I'm like, okay, how did this person get there and how did they achieve? And so I love just almost hyper fixating and slightly maybe even obsessing over where they're at and the steps that they took to get there. But yeah, it's really funny that you link it that way because it has nothing to do with a revenue figure or a financial amount, but everything of like, how can I achieve? This person has like made such an impact. Like, how do I get there kind of concept, right? And you're shaking your head, please. I love when you chime in with your little notes.
Yeah. So, I mean, in that instance, and I'm real, I'm very particular as well when I love teaching people about, language, especially around emotions and around some of the meanings. So what you're actually referring to is ambition and comparison, because it's rooted in shame and creates so much shame for us, generally doesn't propel us forward. It generally, ironically, keeps us stuck, even though in some moments it feels like, well, I'm working harder at the gym because I'm trying to lift what they're lifting, or I'm trying to look like they're lifting. But the problem is, again, that's not sustainable because you're going to find somebody at some point in time that can lift more than you, that looks better than you. Like there's always going to be somebody who outdoes it. Right. Whereas when we're in a place of ambition, we've let go of the shame of it and we're like, ooh, that looks fun. Let's go do that. Or I want to be the better version. I want to make myself proud of myself at the end of today, at the end of this week, at the end of this month, at the end of this year. I know I have a capacity to do this. And so we look ahead, not because it makes us feel bad about ourselves, because it's a really great model and it's a place for us to strive.
That's
And
powerful. And ambition's the perfect word.
do you also recognize too, Anne, like when you are in that position of ambition, you have people around you that have been there, done that, and there's no, like I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 colleagues right now around me. And if we truthfully compare, I'm like at the lowest part, right? I'm the newbie. But not once do I ever look at them and I'm like, why can't I be there? I look at them like what Nicole is saying, like that's going to be me one day. And it's like around the corner because I feel it. Like it's a positive, I don't know if it's a positive comparison or a positive competition, if there's such a thing. But and it's also in that group of 5 people, we all have something very unique that like the other doesn't have, right? And so
Right.
it's beautiful when you can look at this group and you're like, oh, so I specialize in this and I do this, but they specialize in that. I can learn from them. They can learn from me. I don't know. It's different. I don't know if it's age or if it's just evolution, like personal evolution. Because there are
Mentorship.
people that are like older. I mean, sadly, like in their 60s and 70s, not that that's old, but in their 60s and 70s, and they're stuck in that mindset, right? Like that.
Yes. So mentorship and role models is what you're referring to,
Yes.
right? So, and this is again where community actually drives things. So at any point in our stage of development as human beings in business, even physically in the work that we do as human beings, one of the things that's really powerful is when we're constantly searching for to be better versions of ourselves. And some people think that that is perfectionism, but again, the difference is perfectionism usually keeps us anchored and makes us feel bad about ourselves because we're always looking for how I'm failing, whereas ambition is about striving forward and looking at the positive.
Mm-hmm.
I can do this. I'm capable of this. I can learn this skill. I can get this. We're problem solving much more effectively when we're ambitious. And some of the responsibility, especially when we're in community, isn't just to have the role models that we can hang on to, but now my responsibility is to help the people behind me that will come up behind me. It's part of like that giving back, right? This is why I love doing this work, because I was in the place struggling with food and struggling with weight and struggling with all the behaviors. And so I just don't do it professionally. I want to give it to other people. So I'm out at like McDonald's and hear people talking about stuff that's really eating disordered or really messed up, and I'll fix it. Like I'll just like, or you can have that, you can have that too, or man, I get it, that's really hard. Or I run races before and people are like, well, I can't eat the rest today because I just finished that half marathon. I'm like, or you can love your body and you can have it and you can nourish it, and I'll just walk away. Right. So what we're doing in doing that is we're constantly creating the world that we want to live in. We're allowing ourselves to be positive influences and helping people that aren't yet to where we are because something doesn't feel good for us and because we don't want the world to stay stuck there. Right. But community. So what I tell people a lot of times, that's why I love doing couples work. I love doing couples therapy. I know it probably makes me weird. There are a lot of people that don't like doing it because there's lots of conflict that comes up. The reason I love it is that we get injured in the context of relationship. We also can get healed in the context of relationship. We can get injured in the context of our family. We can healed in the context of community. So when we find our people, we find our group, when we have other people that are struggling and we have other people that can help us, that right there is the magic ticket for us as human beings, because now we can get support. And so much of what we struggle with as human beings when we have shame and comparison is I can't ask for help. I can't let somebody impart their knowledge on me because it means that there's something wrong with me.
Mm-hmm.
I got to figure it out on my own.
Oh, I resonate with that so hard. So hard. And I think even just morphing into the place I am now with the team and whatnot, I know for a fact version 1.0 of Nicole would be ashamed to admit to bring on somebody like with your expertise, Anne, right? Like, I feel like I studied this mindset. I feel like I'm decent at it, but this is really this is what you have a PhD. This is your bread and butter. Same thing with Buket for hormones. I know hormones, but not to the level of which you do. So to have people that come in that I can honestly say are experts, and it's like, version 1.0 of Nicole to admit that maybe I don't know this question about hormones and to have to go to somebody else would never do that, right? Because that makes me less worthy and you're not going to appreciate me if I don't have all the answers. And now I love being able to like, look, I know my stroke of genius and I have people on my team that have their stroke of genius. And I love being able to say, this is her stroke of genius. This is what she does so well. And there has been a complete evolution that's for me to get here, because I know for a fact 5 years ago, 6 years ago, I would just be mortified if somebody asked me a question about hormones and I couldn't answer it, or mindset piece and I didn't have a good response to it. Right. But now I have, like I said, I just have this community, this team of just complete boss babes. And I love having you guys learn, just like I said, that's your stroke of genius. And I'll be like, well, actually, that's a great question for Anne. That's her stroke of genius. Or great question for Buket. That's her stroke of genius. Right. And so there's so much power when you know your worth. And I know my stroke of genius and I know where I'm really strong. And I'm totally fine now to say, I don't know, or I'm not quite sure, or that's not really my area of expertise. And that was a lot. I mean, again, a lot of like mental mindset work has gone through that and just really so confident in where I stand now. But I would love to hear your thoughts on that, Anne.
So a part of that is shame. The word that I came to mind as you were talking is shame resiliency. So see how everything goes back to shame. It's a beautiful thing. I talk about it a lot. So shame resiliency means that I can accept things about me that are positive and good, and I can also accept the things about me that I have weaknesses or struggles with. And we have to be able to do both to be solid human beings and to have confidence. Because when I can only do one, so I can only identify the things that I'm good at, we have arrogance, which is the utmost of shame, right? Because now I can't accept that I struggle with anything or I have a deficit in something because it means I'm less than. Or we're stuck in the other place where I just suck at everything, which is where we get a lot of major depression. We get a lot of like, I'm literally going to get stuck and I can't do anything. I can't mobilize around anything. I can't be ambitious. I'm a failure and I'm going to live my way that failure as a failure. We have to be able to do both, but we have to be able to maximize this while still knowing this, because so much of what we grow up with, especially in this country, and I think other countries, certain Asian countries in particular, are very well known for this, but we focus on making the weaknesses strong instead of making the strength stronger. And growth mindsets.
Ooh, say that again, Anne. That was so powerful. Dude, that's a mic drop moment. People take pen to pad to that because that's good.
We focus on making the weaknesses strong and kind of obliterating them instead of making the strength stronger. And so much of our work as human beings needs to be making the strong parts of us stronger and focusing less on the weaknesses. Now, I'm not saying if you got a weakness for junk food or sweets that we can't improve that, we can't get that better. But that's going to be very different than focusing on, all right, what you do don't, and what it is that you are capable to do. Let's start here. Let's grow this. Let's like put gasoline on that fire because you already have a giftedness here. You already have momentum here. We may never get there with this. Right. So I love doing public speaking. I love big audiences. I love talking about this stuff. I suck at social media. I can show up and I can speak, but man, social media, I'm like, I don't know, I want to do it. Right. So like I can spend my time over here getting really frustrated working on something that's not my giftedness and not necessarily my skill set, or I can maybe hire somebody to do this. Right. And work on the giftedness that I have. This one is going to make me feel better. And this one is actually my passion. That's what we communicate to people. Right. So when we're doing something inside of our giftedness, it comes with a lot of joy. It comes with a lot of passion, a lot of confidence, and we give that to the world around us.
Yeah. So powerful. That was so good. So good. And I really feel like so many are going to really resonate with this, but you're right. We tend to hyper fixate. And I'd be lying if I said I didn't get caught up sometimes on the things that I'm not as good at and wanting to be better at those. And of course, we all want to better our skill set. And that's just normal. You know, we reach one goal, we want to improve on the next kind of thing. And so I think there's a space of being able to get recognize that we all kind of get caught up into that. But there's also a space of recognizing that you are caught up in that and being able to pull yourself out of that and, putting more energy and effort into the things. And just like Anne said, it's so funny. Anne and I have actually had a conversation about this off topic because so Anne and Buket both spoke at my last event. And I just really, I was like, damn, I want to be that confident speaking in front of people one day. And it was funny because Anne's like, you're really she's like, no, we can work towards some of these things, but she's like, you're really strong on social media, but it's just funny how we just all have different strengths. And I was looking at you and admiring, and never once was it like a space of jealousy or a space, but it was envy. I was like, dang, I want to be that strong. I mean, you took the house down, like you owned that event, and same thing with that, you both owned it. And so I was just like, I want to be that strong one day, but it's being able to recognize where maybe your quote unquote weaknesses are and understanding that we can all work towards being better at certain things, but also being able to own the things that you are really, really good at too. So I love that you intertwined both of those things, but I think this is like a really solid note to end on, but I mean, it's just so good. Do you guys have any last thoughts or feedback on this? Maybe, and just ways for people to maybe if they are struggling with comparison, they are struggling with that trap that we can find ourselves in, what are some, like, maybe some tactical things that they could utilize to pull themselves out of that?
Yep. So a lot of it is mindfulness skills. So noticing when we're doing it is the first step, right? So being able to identify, I'm constantly evaluating someone else, whether I'm thinner or they're thinner, or thank God I'm this. And what we're going to focus on instead is, especially if I'm judging someone else, I'm going to focus on lifting them up in my head or out loud, whatever that looks like. So instead of going, thank God I'm not that size, we're going to shift it to, oh my gosh, they're such a badass because they're working out. Good for that. Right. We're going to start lifting them up in our head. We're going to stop paying attention to the thing that we think we're better than them on. And instead, what we're going to do is we're going to actually be what we want to have to see in the world, which is a lot more encouragement of other people. Like that feels emotionally, even if I'm doing it in my head, like I'm so much of a better person. I feel better about myself when I'm thinking positive thoughts about people out there jogging that are really struggling versus like, I never look like that. That must be really hard for you. Right. So at least I can run faster than that. That doesn't feel good. Right. So we've got to be mindful about it. We got to practice flipping it on the positive. And I would also say that about ourselves. So if we're looking at ourselves going, man, I wish I were that thin, or I wish my butt looked like that, or I wish I could lift that much weight, or I wish I could eat like this, or I wish I had a business like that. So that place and that can really, really quickly turn into a lot of self-pity or a lot of self-hatred. And instead being able to go, what is it that I do have? What is it that I'm proud of? And if you can't answer that question, if you can't end your day and say, today, I'm really proud of something, then what I want you to do is I actually want to invite you as you wake up, like think about one thing that would make you really proud by the end of the day and then go achieve that. And for me, sometimes, because we got a lot of kids, I got a lot going on, I got a business that I'm running, I'm doing here and there. The thing that I'm most proud of is I spent sometimes just 15 minutes talking to one of my sons about some really emotional thing or some big thing and a big event that they had that day. Like I am so proud of myself because that shows my character. It shows my love for my sons. And I know some people are like, you only spent 15 minutes with your kid. And I'm like, yeah, do you know how busy life gets? Right. Or if it's like, I really want to work on positive body image, really refocusing on what it is that our body is doing for us, what it is taking us through. I mean, I used to compulsively exercise. I'd beat up on my body something fierce. And I recently had an endoscopy and colonoscopy, got clean bills of health and all this. And I was like, oh my gosh, the fact that my throat wasn't ruined, the fact that my colon wasn't shot out, like, holy cow, I am so blessed because I was working against those things for nearly a decade of my life, at least. And so grateful that my body is at the stage that I'm in healthy. Like I have so much gratitude about that. Right. But being able to say, like, I'm grateful because I can walk. I'm grateful that I can run. I'm grateful that I can move my body. And if you're not yet there, I'm grateful that I can get out of the chair. I'm grateful that I'm still putting one foot in front of the other and my body's getting me there. And so often we want to be in a place of saying my body sucks because it doesn't look this, it doesn't do this. And we think that somehow that's going to motivate us to change. Here's just like a really quick cheat on this. That doesn't motivate any of us. That doesn't create
Comparison trap, guilt trap, shame trap. Yep.
Yeah. And it just discourages us. So practice some good mental hygiene.
Love it. What do you have, Buket?
Or like a session once a week with Dr. Ann.
Right?
To reinforce that. Dr.
I think we
Ann,
could all benefit from that. So
well, I know we're going to end here, but I also want to like speak to the women out there right now that may have been able to resonate with the I want to do it all woman, superwoman mentality, make my husband happy in all ways, my kids happy, be the homemaker, yet the worker and the ambitious woman and just superwoman, right?
juggle it all flawlessly.
Yep. And like I've been researching and I don't know, Esther Perel, some things I agree with her, some things I don't. Like I do believe in monogamy and that's it. End of story. I want to marry one person, be with one person. That's it. But she talks about something called the village and how back in the day we had women, like if a woman had a kid and she's breastfeeding and she's tired, then the other woman that was breastfeeding or lactating would breastfeed the other kid. I know it sounds crazy, but we had people for every type of thing. And now especially in America, because in Turkey and Mexico, there's still a village. Um, we are we have to do it all on our own, and we don't have our neighbors that we can like openly share with and be like, hey, can you watch the kids? Like, it's just, America's not like that. I guess what I'm getting to is that it's easier for American women, I feel like, or women that are in America, to fall in the trap of they have to do it all and they have to be perfectionists, because that village is almost non-existent. And I think it's for two reasons. Here in the US, this is my space, this is how I like things done. We're not as open to allowing people to come in and like cook a little different way or clean in a different way. I guess what I'm saying is I've seen it in my culture and in the Mexican culture, where like you have a baby, the whole family comes and they're cooking and they're cleaning and they're helping you, and you're not sitting there. I remember like after I had Kenneth, I had baby blues, almost postpartum depression. Couldn't even touch him for a little while. I was freaking out. And it was just me and my husband, and like he had to take over. And that's stressful, because now you're a woman that like you have sex with your partner, you're their lover, you're their friend, you're the mother of their children, you're this, you're that, you're all these things. And it's tough. It's tough. Whereas if we have a village, we can rest and we can sleep a little bit extra. We can, I don't know, this is maybe a topic and it's maybe a different culture thing, but I've noticed that, and I do believe in the US women struggle with that so much because we don't have a village.
Well, because we glamorize go, 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 right? Like that is, a perception of like, oh, that's like, if you're not grinding it out, then you're not as motivated. And that is, social media at its finest, and only showing the highlight reels instead of the reality of what it really is, kind of situation. Yeah. Anne's shaking her head. So I love when she shakes her head. I know she has a thought. I know she has something she wants to say.
Wearing exhaustion like it's a badge of honor.
Yep. Exactly.
Yeah.
That was me, man. I was like, I'm a good wife. On Friday and Saturday, I put out, I look pretty and I'm all ready. And I cooked all 5 meals and I went to exercise, mostly cardio that time. I starved myself. I'm the prettiest thing. Nobody, my husband would never want anybody else because I do it all. And then now I'm like, I look back at pictures of me, Anne and Nicole, and I'm like, why did I not love myself then? What the hell was wrong with me? Like, I look and I'm like, oh my gosh, my body was beautiful. And I go back to that moment and I'm like, I was picking myself apart that same day when that picture was taken. And I was absolutely gorgeous. So now I've said to myself, every picture I have of me, I'm going to enjoy it and love it for what it is, because 20 years later, I want to be able to look back and say, I loved myself that day. I actually loved myself and didn't pick myself apart. But anyways, I digress.
No, I think that's a whole other podcast, like you said, too, for a whole other day. Just like the glamorize of the go, go, go culture and how we get caught up in that, and the highlight reels and the dopamine hits and all of the things that come into that. But you guys, I hope you found value to this, because I know I did. I felt like I just got like a personal session with Anne. I was like, all right, that makes sense. I get that. I got that. So, and that's truly the vibe of this podcast. I really want our listeners to feel like they're like sitting down with us, that are having a cup of coffee, and they feel like, holy crap, that is me. Yes. And I just got a therapy session and now it clicks and I understand. And this is amazing kind of situation. So I hope you guys, got just as much out of this as we did. And we truly appreciate every single one of you. And I can only ask that if you find any value, so like at all whatsoever, a 5-star review, liking, sharing, rating, like tagging us on your social media channels, whatever you can to help us get. We've had so much positive feedback from the podcast, and I'm so very grateful. But helping us to get out into the algorithm gods, as this is still relatively a very new podcast, would be very much so appreciated. But thank you guys so much, and we'll see you in the next episode.
If this is helpful, give me a like, follow me, or subscribe for more.